Because like now, I just locked our door.
You'll be famous forever for that.
Hi, Dr. Monahan. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Great. You're looking great. Did you get some?
Show my team shirt, and by the end of the season, it was like, okay, my belly's showing, and I love it. I love it. We're so proud. We're so proud. You are gonna. I couldn't think of anyone more perfect to be at Keisha than you. So you'll do good things. We'll miss you here, though.
There's nothing changed.
He said he was stuck under the hippos. He said, but
What are they running?
because I was inside.
Not the letter.
Zach and Tyler. I know. You know what? I had such a hard time. The kids that I know. I had a really hard time figuring out where to put them because I was like, okay, the kids that I know that I'm like, okay, they're really responsible. So I wanted to put him with the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. So it's like I want somebody that I can trust there, and it's like I was like, I hate to put poor Zach. And Tyler, I had to put somebody at the main booth, and I really wanted someone responsible that I could trust there in that job. So I was like, I'm sorry, guys.
And that's where we went.
Yeah, I saw the pictures. You guys just can't stay away.
Maybe. Might be fast. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
You guys flew on it.
And I'll
You can't pick that. I'm just still trying to figure it out.
Yeah. I got my roster.
Oh.
Yeah. You just got to pretty good. What do you say?
That one was
Yeah, I'm sure.
Lynn, of course, was in the House of Senate. You got to know pretty well.
I don't. No. And here it is. It's just done.
Thrown in the fire. That's okay to say.
Under down.
It's actually 65,000. Everyone keeps saying 80, so just stick with it.
Get out of it.
I can't. I'm at a conference. Yeah.
19.
Yeah. Otherwise, I would come.
Models, computer.
Yeah, I'm trying to get all the stuff on my calendar that I could. I would love to be there, but I'm going to be exhibiting, and I'm not presenting tomorrow. I'm presenting the following day. It's here in Topeka. And like leave in the middle. I'm not already trying to sneak out. I've got a American Business Women's Association that I belong to, that they're having their monthly luncheon at the hotel, and I'll be at the hotel, but not with them. So I said I'll try and sneak over for a few minutes. But April is
I'm with Elizabeth. He's spending too much money.
No, it's things like
Like what, to eat chocolate, something like that?
Somewhat, kind of depends on if, when she's in a play, it gets, of course, crazy. But right now, she's just got dance a couple of nights a week. And so it's not been too bad. We'll go to Logan is having their district wellness night tomorrow night, so we'll be going to that. So,
I don't know how they pay for what
that's just, isn't that just
That sucks.
30 degrees at the zoo on Saturday? And now it's 70 again. And when we were setting up on Friday, it was in the 80s.
Oh, yeah. You got shafted.
That's okay.
Yeah.
You know, you get what you get.
Get what you get. No trophy?
That's right. That's what Anna always tells me.
It's good for them to get that early.
Well, I figure this was our 5th year for the event. We've never had an issue with weather. Oh, well, it's always been a nail biter.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming. We are going to get started with our April school board meeting, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you'll join me with that. As soon as Christy gets into place. Okay. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'll turn it over to Superintendent Noble for several remarks.
Real quickly, our board promotion time is coming up. Really, our promotion times for our entire district are coming up, starting with our 6th grade promotions on Wednesday, May 23rd. And so you will be receiving some communication from Teresa, our administrative assistants here, on getting you booked for your 6th grade promotions. We typically divvy that up so you don't feel like you need to try to be at all of them because, well, since it's kind of hard to get around all of them on the same day. But many of you have spots you would prefer to be. We want to honor that. So board, when you receive that email from Teresa, please respond to that on which of those sites you plan to attend, and we'll make sure that we receive you and have a spot for you appropriately at each of those sites. The next promotion then is typically an invitation for all board members to attend. That's our 8th grade promotion, and that is on May the 22nd at 7 p.m. in the high school main gymnasium. This is a large event. For those of you who've been in the district a while, you know this is a well-attended event. The board typically will sit at the front of the gymnasium where the awards and the promotion certificates are delivered. So let us know also in that same email from Teresa, and you will respond to her for your availability on that day as well. And then finally, the high school graduation ceremony on May the 20th at 4 p.m. in the Expo Center. So I wanted to note those dates and times for board members to make sure you're aware of that, and you'll be receiving your formal invitation to attend and respond to that email as well. So that's all I had on that. Any questions on the promotion for some of our new members and even returning ones? Can we do that? Okay. The next item I have, Mr. President, is an update on the school funding legislation. So it's pretty big news, particularly around here, that I'll get to here in a moment. But the Kansas legislature passed a school finance bill on April the 8th that increases funding statewide by about $525 million over 5 years. There was a technical error that was discovered in the bill, which reduces the overall aid by about $80 million by some estimates for the 18-19 school year, and that needs to be corrected when the legislature returns to Topeka for the wrap-up session on April the 26th. Supporters of the bill are optimistic that that will get done. The Kansas Supreme Court then will hear the oral arguments on May the 22nd and rule on its constitutionality. I think it's notable, this particular bill, for several reasons. One, it's a tremendous effort for a long-term school finance bill that helps our children, helps our local boards of education, our communities to budget and plan for the outgoing years, at least for the next 5 years. And that's very helpful to boards and others that manage school budgets. But also it's noted that our board president, Fred Patton, played a significant role in the passage of that new formula as chairman of the House K-12 Education Budget Committee. I also want to note that our local senator for our district, Senator Laura Kelly, and Governor Jeff Collier both voiced support for the bill. And in fact, tomorrow we're having a pretty big ceremony in our district. It was a public press release today from the governor's office that the governor and Mr. Fred Patton will be in attendance tomorrow morning at 8:45 a.m. at the high school to do a signature, a signing of the bill, very ceremonial public signing of that finance bill in our own gymnasium at Seaman High School. So this is a pretty big deal, so we're excited about doing that. Mr. Monahan has been working diligently behind the scenes to ready his students and staff and all the folks there. So thank you, Mr. Monahan, for the work you're doing there. So all of the board has been invited to that as well. And you've received your details on where to be for that event tomorrow. I know some of you have already booked up and other appointments, because when you're working with the governor's office, you work on their quick timelines. And so that's how we had to do that. And I know not all of you can be there, but certainly thank you to not only Mr. Patton, but the entire legislature for this very, very diligently debated and the resolution that came up, I think, is a workable resolution for Kansans. Mr. President, do you have any comments on that, or would you like for me to continue on?
Keep going.
All right. I figured you might want to. You talked enough about that.
Yeah, I think so.
Finally, then, we received an inquiry about out-of-district transfer students from one of our local media outlets a week ago, and so I thought I'd share the same information with our Board of Education and public today. As you may remember, the board adopted a policy to allow, once again, out-of-district transfer students to come into Seaman schools. And we basically approve them on 3 criteria. We look at their past grade performance in school, academic performance in school, their past attendance in their prior schools, and then their past behavior record. And so we base their admittance on those 3 criteria. And if all 3 look good and meet our standards, then we allow that family into our district, provided 2 other things. One, there's room for their student in their particular class they're asking for, and 2, it doesn't increase the educational costs. We don't have to add staffing to accommodate additional classroom teachers or other things, support staff, et cetera. And so those are the criteria that we look at from a budgeting standpoint as well. So we have currently in the district 256 out-of-district transfer students, of which 151 of those are newest students this particular school year that have met that criteria. We had 16 of those denied. They didn't meet the criteria, and you can kind of look through the rest of that we do not do anything with inquiring about race or things of that nature. We simply look at those 3 criteria for grades, grade performance, attendance performance, and behavior. Questions on out-of-district transfers? And that concludes my reports for this month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I get to always do the cool stuff, the fun stuff, recognize people. We are going to start with recognizing Brooke Ralph, who received the Mace Make It Happen Award, and Andrea Marshbank is here because she nominated her, I think, is what I was told. And maybe Andrea's going to talk a little bit? Okay, cool. Wasn't sure from your look if I was surprising you or if you were surprising me. Okay, we're good.
Brooke has been our senior high school instructional coach for the past 3 years now, and prior to that, she taught science on the 10-12 side in anatomy, botany, and zoology. And she is an absolutely integral in the technology-friendly atmosphere of Seaman High Schools overall. She's been involved in so many programs time and time again. She helped run the Apple Teacher Academy. She does the iCoach lessons, and she's also really helped with our school-wide implementation and integration of Schoology. And it's just been fantastic to have her. Furthermore, she also did the Viking Connections program, which is one of our shining stars in our programs at Seaman High School, where she connects high school classrooms with elementary school classrooms, and so that they can have real-world learning and mentoring opportunities. It's just fantastic. The English department at the Freshman Center took advantage of this. Was a Genius Hour project, and a lot of our kids got to actually teach younger students about their project. So really invaluable learning that Brooke has just enabled. And so she is just a fantastic colleague to work with. She has a fantastic eye for education, and she is brilliant as a person who she's taught multiple times in the iCoach lessons. She is both patient, kind, And there's really no one more deserving of this award, and Seaman High School is incredibly lucky to have them.
For you. Okay. This is for you from us. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
You can stay there. Come on in. Okay. Cool. Thank you. Next, we have these swimmers we keep hearing about, I think. Let's see. Yep, swimmers again. There goes Rod. So, as you know, our swim team did a really good job this year. They've been building up over the last couple years, and this year, as you'll see on the shirts they're wearing, are the state champs. Coach Garman's going to talk here a little bit when they all get in here. Certainly proud of this group. Not only are they good athletes, but good students. Well, most of them. I didn't know Jansen was here. All right, so this isn't all of us, but these are the majority of the swimmers who represented Seaman High School at the state swim and dive 5 through 1A 2018 championships held here in Topeka. We live by 3 words, and we've been living by these for a while now, but unity, focus, and effort. And these guys took it to heart, and they have put in more than just practice time. It's been summers working, it's off-season working. Many of these athletes here in front of you are multi-sport athletes, participating in other activities. They're in musicals, they're in forensics, they're just multi-talented folks. But somehow, some way, they have found it within themselves to put in the extra time for swimming. And I would say the seniors here, their freshman year, they set a goal. They just started setting a goal of we're going to win state by our senior year. And they slowly progressed. Their freshman year, they were 18th. They then went to 8th their sophomore year. By the time their junior year, they were 5th. And then this year, they won. I'm going to quickly say their names so you know who these folks are. But we have Zeke Metz down on the end, Logan Stuckey, Josh Florence, Dylan Russell. He's a diver. Okay. Nate Brewer, Cameron Stanley, James Sadler, wait, Josh Graves, they know where I'm at, there we go. Spencer Aliker, Cooper Garman, Noah Florence, Jansen Garman, Chance Barta, Doug Wire, Devin Applehand, and Zach Bloom. And then our fearless assistant coach here who makes it all happen, Bernard Tuck. He's been, I couldn't do this without him. And he makes it possible, keeps me on track. I guess the highlights I want to make about this team is, turn around, boys. Turn around, okay? You'll see the big words undefeated, right? So we did go through the varsity season undefeated for the 2nd year in a row. Turn back around now. But then they also won their 3rd consecutive city championship and their 3rd consecutive Centennial League championship, which we didn't realize what a big deal that was until the first year we won, and we got that big Centennial League trophy, and Seaman was nowhere on it, ever. It had been dominated by Washburn Rural. Manhattan had gotten it maybe a couple times in there, but that was a pretty big moment 3 years ago when we first won that. But then at state, here's what's incredible. To win any state championship is a feat, right? I mean, that's just amazing in any, I don't care what activity it is, what sport. But to dominate the way these boys dominated this year was just amazing. I mean, they won the state championship by 150 points. That, just to give you an example, the last 2 years it's been won by half a point. And I think it was like 3 points the year before, the year before was 3 points, but the year before that was half a point. But it's usually very close. And to win by 150 points was amazing. We came out of prelims, and it was pretty known to everyone there who was going to win. I mean, that's how we felt going into the 2nd day. Now it was just, can we better our times? Can we keep improving and see if we can do even better? We set 5 state records at this state championship meet, which they own all 3 of the relay event records in the state. And didn't just tweak the records, but beat them pretty significantly and lowered them quite a bit. Zeke Metz also set 2 individual state records in both the 200 and 500 threes. He was also named the athlete of this year's state meet. So that was quite an incredible feat. We also had 3 members of this team make first team All-State, including Zeke, Cameron Stanley, and Josh Florence, and 2 second team All-State members, Jansen Garman and Noah Florence. So incredible season. Can't say enough about the work and the effort that they put into it, because it just doesn't happen overnight. And very proud of them. And I think, you know what, we had a lot of seniors, but we got a lot of talent coming back. And I wish them the best. I think they can do it again, and I sure hope they do. So congratulations, boys. We'll keep going. Yeah, no, you're fine. Get ready. So we also have a certificate for the team. I'll give it to Coach Garman, who left out. He was also coach of the year.
Hold on, I should do one of those like cool panoramas.
Are we in the middle then? Okay, let's keep moving. There we go. No. It's like that.
Ready?
Don't go too fast, don't go up or down.
Photo bomb, you can.
All right.
Okay, cool.
Okay, let me go on this.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, you stay right there. Zeke, you're up.
Oh, yeah, so Coach Garman is actually won Coach of the Year for 2 years, 2016 and 2018. And as you guys probably know, he will not be our coach next year. And so we got him these, it's a replica of his Coach of the Years to put in the school so that everyone knows what he has meant to our program. So we wanted it to be on display for everyone to see.
Board members, wear your shirts with pride, all right?
Will do.
Will do.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, guys. Thanks for coming,
Thanks, guys. Good
Thank
job.
you. Awesome.
Congratulations.
They can stay for the meeting.
Yeah, you guys can stay if you want. Exciting. Okay, our final recognition goes to Keith Griffin, who received a certificate from the Kansas Association of School Boards for attending the Introduction to Foundations of Boardmanship training. Oh, hold on, we gotta do a picture. Gosh, she's annoying sometimes.
We want a cool panoramic one.
Yeah.
Got me wave? Did you get a t-shirt for that one?
Broken Understand record.
Yeah.
Come on, KASB, let's go.
Okay, moving on, public communications. This is the opportunity for the public to address the board if they'd like. And if so, there is the microphone. Just come up and give us your name and address. Anybody? You guys are just here for fun? Okay.
Well, and I would like to make
Oh,
a
gosh.
comment.
Thanks for
You
reminding
forgot
me.
me already,
I
Fred.
forgot you already.
I just wanted to comment and say, my organization, Safe Kids Kansas, held Safe Kids Day at the Topeka Zoo this past Saturday. And this was our 5th year for the event. And the last, I think all of those 5 years, we have had high school students from Seaman who have come and volunteered at that event and done all sorts of played different roles and did different activities. And consistently every year, this year is the same, I get comments from people about how incredible these kids are as volunteers, how professional they are, how, just conscientious about their role there. And I was so incredibly proud, especially, with being from the district and serving on the board, that these are our kids and how they present themselves to our community. And I just wanted to share my gratitude to the school for helping me to recruit these kids, and just also that I want to thank the kids themselves for being just so incredible and giving to our community and their volunteerism.
Very good. Good to hear. Adoption of the agenda. Any additions or changes? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Carl, second by Sherry. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next, disposition of business by consent.
Move to approve.
Motion by James, second by Christie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Discussion items. Your curriculum report.
I'm feeling a bit underdressed tonight, so.
You're way overdressed.
I'm trying to be.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
All right. Hey, lots coming up and coming up soon. Tomorrow night, you're all invited to come out. Last district wellness night for this school year. It'll be held at Logan Elementary. Planned to be outside at the track, but if weather doesn't cooperate, we'll move on inside. So come out and enjoy that, 6:30 to 8. Coming up later this week, Thursday, Friday, kindergarten roundup. Getting ready, welcoming those new students to Seaman, and we're excited about that. Some schools, Elmont and North Fairview, are going to go Thursday evening, and then North Fairview will join the other 3 schools in the morning as well. They're doing 2 different sessions. So we have them going on in the evening and in the next morning. So that's always exciting, and an exciting time for those new parents, especially if it's their first child off to school, and we hope they have a great first experience. Looking through, yes, we had a booklet of things for you this time around. A lot of things happening, and we're not going to touch on everything, but just want to highlight a few other things. Incredible feat, exciting at the middle school, space camp. The actual space camp that's held, I'm actually going to read this one word for word so I don't mess it up, but Seaman Middle School will be sending 8th grade science teacher Rob Jackson and 7th grade students Emily Harmon and Natalie Shehai-Ohms to attend the space camp. The Northrop Grumman Foundation is sponsoring scholarships for middle school students and teachers from across the United States, the United Kingdom, and Australia to attend Space Camp July 8 through 13 at the U.S. Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville, Alabama. This is the 10th year the Northrop Grumman Foundation has funded Space Camp scholarships, and this year we will sponsor 80 students and 48 teachers. Now, we said the United States, Australia, and the United Kingdom, right? And we have 3, 1 teacher and 2 students. Pretty cool. Space Camp is a launching pad for innovators and pioneers, and a fantastic experience for students who want to explore the wonders of space, and for teachers who want to expand their science, technology, engineering, and mathematics tools. So we're very proud of those 3, both Mr. Jackson and the 2 students, and excited to hear what all they learn and what they do. It should be an exciting time in July for them. So that's pretty cool. Something else I wanted to point out, of course, April 27th, our final full day of professional learning for our staff here at the Seaman District. And as you can see, I mean, I'm not even going to try to touch going through everything. There's so much happening at the buildings. But something all schools will be doing is we established our goals for accreditation for the KISA process this past year as rigor and relevance. And each building is going to be working on their action plan now that they've had a year to kind of feel out and figure what they want to do to improve rigor and relevance within their schools. They'll be completing those action plans and talking more specific goals and timelines for that to happen in the next 4 years. So we're excited about that and getting that work going. But you can see there's so many other things going on that day as well. So that's just a small piece. And finally, I want to touch on Project Lead the Way, because I know a couple of you went with us down to Goddard on March 13th and got to go to the showcase event down there. Project Lead the Way is a STEM curriculum, really focuses in on science, engineering, computer technology, but also encourages project-based learning, collaboration, working together, incorporating technology into their problem solving. We went down there, administrators, a couple board members, some of our teachers, and it just really reinforced, I think, in all of our minds that we're doing the right thing. Thank you, Dr. Noble, for leading this initiative and pushing it on me before you even got here, your first year, because we did start in the high school 2 years ago with that first computer science principles course at the high school. Now, within your board docs, included the curricular pathways there, and you can see that we'll be up to 5 courses going in the 3 different pathway areas at the high school, as well as 2 elective courses now at the middle school next year, the gateway courses. And then finally, we've hired our 5 launch teachers for each elementary building, 1 at each building, to start the launch curriculum as well. So we're excited, and that will grow hopefully in the next few years to even more time. But A lot's happening there. And what did I say our 2 goal areas were for accreditation? Rigor and relevance. I think Project Lead the Way is going to help us along the way there with those goals. So, and finally, just take note of all the summer activities that will be going on throughout the different grade levels this summer. Lots happening there. Our summer spectacular, Seaman Spectacular, is back, and it amazes me how quickly that fills up every year. I mean, we posted it March 16th online for enrollment, and it was full by March 27th. So it's always amazing how quickly that fills up. So popular programs, and hopefully lots of learning still going on this summer. Any questions for me about anything before I introduce this fine person here next to me? You probably all know who she is, but this is her official first board meeting to be at. Danita Fernandez Flores is one of our current assistant principals at the high school, of course, and she has now been named our new director of secondary education for the district, and she's tag teaming with me here, so I'm going to let her take over and share some more information with you.
All right, good evening. And so following up on the Project Lead the Way and its connection to the pathways, another important piece of our pathways is the career technical student organizations. And if we look at our curriculum document, you'll notice that our pathways have always offered our students leadership opportunities in the 9 pathways that we've had and the 24 that are going to come online next year. And so I'd like for you to be able to visit that and see how our students are succeeding in each of those organizations. And then finally, before I move on, I want to also show, kind of bring your attention to IPS and career cruising. And I have an entire presentation with regards to that. But before I move into that, I want to know if you have any questions with regards to the curriculum information. All right then. So today I'm here to talk to you about PAC. PAC is a committee made up of principals, advocates, and counselors, and internship coordinators. And I think PAC was created around 2012, 2013, as we're bringing on advocates. And what I'd like to share with you is our new vision for this committee. And as you can see in our presentation, that vision is about providing leadership in post-secondary success. I think I've got this right. Yes, we go. And so as we're putting our vision towards post-secondary success, we've identified our purpose, which is to be able to sustain the process for individual plans of studies for our students using career cruising, as well as support and expand our capacity to engage our students and our parents with this initiative, as well as the product being career cruising. And in order to hold ourselves accountable for progress, we've identified 3 areas that could be used as data that we can look at to see if we are meeting our goals and our purpose. And these 3 are completion rates within career cruising, and I'll show you what that looks like, as well as keeping our focus on that graduation rate, and that's just a number that we're also able to look at, and then introduce or reintroduce to you this new concept of an effective rate. When we're looking at the accountability with completion rate for career cruising, what we're talking about are elements in the individual plan of study that the team has deemed as appropriate at different grade levels. So what you see here is a document that checks off what items on the individual plans of study needs to be completed at each grade level. And in particular, I want you to notice that red box. The red box talks about career selection, and that kind of brings us back to our pathways. In that career selection, our students are going to be able to identify what their interests are within those 24 pathways. And I'll remind you that we're going from 9 to 24, so our students have a breadth of offerings that they're coming their way. And we can check that completion rate in the administrative side. I'm showing you a box where we can look at the completion rates from different perspectives. And when we're looking for completion rates, we get simple completion rates like this here, where you can see if a student is how far along they are in developing their individual plans of study based on those checked marked items. And we can dive in deeper. If we look at a student maybe at a 25% completion rate, we can dive in to see what items they have or have not been able to complete. This that you see here is what my son sees when he logs into Career Cruising. And I decided to use my son for two different reasons. One, because I'm giving permission to put this in a public forum. And two, because he's currently a freshman at the University of Kansas, he can still log into Career Cruising and be able to use this individual plan of study years after his high school graduation. So just recently, he was at home sharing with us that he had been looking for scholarships to be able to go to a study abroad, and he was using Career Cruising to be able to identify scholarships that are coming his way. So this is an important product that we are kind of introducing to our students this year that will be able to follow them. And in the red box is just different components that students can get into. And of interest to you will be this one, Share My Plan. Our students can share their plan with their parents. So from this site, your student is able to send you an email that shares all the information that he has or she has in there for you. We can also produce paper portfolios of their individual plan of study. It would look something like this sample that you see here. And moving on, but before I do you have any questions on the Career Cruising piece? I know I'm going through a lot of pieces here.
I guess I thought we started that a while back, but you're saying we started it this year?
We executed this year with our students, yes.
9 through, or does this go back to 7?
8.
It's 8 to 11, 8 to 12.
12, all the way through.
And then like, are parents aware of that? I mean, do they know it's coming? I mean,
Mr. Monahan has been sending emails to parents, updating them on what different implementations we've been working with. Mm-hmm. Another accountability measure would be our graduation rate. And the graduation rate is something that we have been focused on for a long time. I just can't remember of a single time in my education career in which we were looking at a graduation rate as a measure of our effectiveness as a system. And in this case, I want to point out two really important dates, 2014 and 2018. 2014, that's school year 2013 through 2014, is the year Seaman School District decided to bring on board advocates. Advocates were brought on board that year, and from my review of historical documents, it appears to me that one of the main reasons was to be able to impact that graduation rate, and we were starting the conversation of individual plans of study. And at the time, the individual plan of study was taking hold in Power School, where they were documenting the conversations the kids were having. Then there was another system, I think it was my 10-year plan, that Seaman had for students to be able to write some sort of individual plan of study. So that's the year advocates came on board. And 2018, this is the first class. This graduating class is the first class that had a career advocate starting in grade 8. So that's our first cohort that has seen a career advocate. So in 8th grade, they see a career advocate twice a year. In 9th grade, they don't because they have Success 101. And the Success 101 course focuses a lot on the development of the individual plan of study. And then we start again with advocates in grades 10, 11, and 12.
Can you help me understand what the advocate does? They meet twice a year with every student?
Mm-hmm. They are assigned a particular part of the alphabet to match up with a guidance counselor and the administrator. And they visit twice a year discussing topics. They differ by grade level, but ranging on their interests, whether they're interested in college or not in college. They write up a summary in Power School, and that gets emailed to parents.
do they have any influence on, or will they have any influence, or who will have influence on the pathway that they help select now that we have a lot more pathways coming?
I think that...
But what I'm getting at there is, I'd like, the picture-esque version of this I'd like to see would be every student that is involved in a pathway, well, for one, understands that it's a pathway, that they know they're headed somewhere, and they can look at that chart, or their parent can look at that chart and know, yeah, okay, I get, the graphic speaks volumes. I mean, That's fantastic. So getting that in the hands of the kids and parents, that's fantastic. But I didn't know if those career counselors or if they had any kind of, career advocates rather, had any kind of influence on the pathways that they take. Like, who does?
The,
Yeah, with enrollment, with classes they select. How does a kid know what to take?
Career Cruising has an interest survey. That interest survey, as students are entering information about what their interests are, what their experiences are, starts letting them know of how it fits within careers and within pathways. And so as you're having, as a student, someone is having a conversation, whether it's with a guidance counselor, an advocate, or an administrator, or say in an IEP, those items get pulled out, and as we're listening to student interest, we make the connection back to, well, it sounds like what you're interested in is within this pathway, and so all of that gets circled around. So it starts with the career interest. Class enrollments are also in Career Cruising, so you can see all the pieces come together within that product, and that can guide the conversation that the student is having with the advocate and with the counselor and with the administrator as we sit in IEP meetings.
Okay. And Dr. Noble knows my opinion on that. My hope is that kids and parents are to the point of just exhaustion, like, we get it, we beat this dead horse, we know what pathway we're on. And I don't think we're there yet, personally. I think there's a long way to go with that, but that's my goal, right? I think that should be our goal, is if we're adopting this plan, it ought to be, and you may have a different opinion of that, that's fine. My own perception is that we're not quite there yet on selling it or packaging it. I think there's a little bit of marketing that can still be wrapped around this program to make sense for kids, because I don't think we're quite.
I'll speak to that just a moment, because Danita wasn't here last year, but this first
Sure.
year, this is our first year.
Agreed.
Implementation. And our discussion was we wanted to get our teachers and students familiar, as always, first,
Yeah.
what's going on, and more parent communication comes as they start figuring out what's available. But I think the first lessons, I mean, they set out a scope and sequence, kind of our 8th grade. All 8th graders are doing this in their technology class. So they have certain components, and I see the advocate of 8th grade really honing in on the pathways at 8th grade as they go to pre-enroll into high school, is what I envision.
And I'm going to take you back to our purpose. This group's purpose pack will be to be able to expand our capacity in engaging the students and the parents in that individual plan of study, which encapsulates looking at those career opportunities within the 24 pathways that we have. So I think this is the group that will be tasked with that marketing that you speak of.
Yeah. Well, and you were with us, and Rod was with us when we went to Independence.
Uh-huh.
They called it academies. I'm not suggesting academies. I know you've already beat that horse. I get it. But some way to say, I belong to this group and I'm in this pathway.
But we also want to be careful and make sure those pathways are fluid.
Yeah, agreed.
And that we don't
Understand.
lock kids into.
Absolutely.
That was something I struggled with at the academies at Independence, was they were pretty,
They were. You were
very
picking what
fluid.
school you belong to. But they were clear.
because we
So
want our
there's-
kids to get well-rounded education too. I don't want them to, because they don't know what they're interested in.
Well, and that's the flack we'll get, I think,
Right.
as decision makers is, well, you've now set up a system where you're making my child pick something or student pick something sooner than they're ready to do. So yeah, I don't want to
Right.
box
And I
us
think
in.
it's important too that if a child shows interest in an area and they start to explore that and then they decide, you know what, maybe I'm not as interested in this as I thought, I'd like to go in another direction, that they have opportunities to, like you said, that fluidity to change their mind and explore something else.
I'm trying to, I'm not articulating it very well, but I think what I'm trying to get at is, we have a tendency to, it's like the acronym stuff we deal with. When the parents don't know that world, they don't speak that language. They don't, now this is one more thing. Well, what's career cruising? I thought I was using Schoology. Doesn't that do my grades? I mean, it's that kind of, you gotta sell them on what your vision is in a very simple way, or you don't have buy-in. And now you're swimming against the grain, I mean, right, you're rubbing against the grain.
Wait, I thought Power School did my grades, now you're gonna be really.
Yeah, exactly, right.
What about My School Bucks? I forgot about what.
My school bucks, yeah, exactly.
We've had that conversation at
I've got like
length.
10 school apps.
Frankly, I'm on the board now, I think it's that clear, so I'll just put that out there.
Okay.
So what do you think I'm telling parents when I'm at ball games? I mean, most parents don't get it.
We're expanding, this is the year that we have expanded opportunities.
Yeah.
And in the coming year, we're going to start sharing with students exactly what those opportunities are. And with this group, trying to make sure that we start developing that shared language, shared communication, and strategize on how we make sure our parents know that this is about opportunities and not locking students into a particular area. I think purposeful opportunities is what should be driving us, not trying to ensure certain people complete certain pathways. The goal is to help them be successful in their future, not determine their future.
I think it's a tough sell for, I don't know if this is because I lived in the former Soviet Union for 2 years, but just kind of getting into that mentality of career exploration. I think some of the terms like pathways indicate that there's a path if you don't go off of that, and so I'm slowly coming around, but it's a struggle as a parent, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If I can interject a thought, I think you're exactly right. All of the comments here. In fact, this is the most interesting discussion I've heard as a superintendent of a board of education in years of being around pathways, because I think this board maybe even gets it a little more than most boards I've been familiar with, frankly. But if you go to that pathway document, you can go to our bubble chart.
That's your gold mine, that pathway document?
Yeah.
That there is what we have to make sure that our parents understand, and our challenge as Ms. Fernandez Flores and I have visited, our challenge, and this board gets this, is to ensure that our public, and particularly our parents, understand this as well as she does, and as well as I do, and hopefully eventually as well as this board does. Because I can promise you right now, our staff doesn't fully understand this. So we do have a communication thing to address. James and Chris, you're both right, and Sherry, absolutely. And that's going to be that key part. What I really liked about Ms. Fernandez Flores' vision for this is assigning a particular group of staff members to be responsible for packaging this whole thing, and then holding us accountable to the results, which she'll get to with the effective rate here momentarily. Because that's really the number we want to drive up. And we'll know we're better at it if we can get that number driven up, but the communication piece will be critical in understanding how this all comes together.
And the other important communication piece here is that as we think of pathways, it almost feels like it might be engulfing what the student is doing in their day. But remembering that their school day is made up of 7 periods, of what we're talking about is one of 7 periods that's going to have some sort of purposeful decision making. Are you interested in, say, accounting? Are you interested in welding? What are your opportunities in that field? And being able to dive into not just I'm learning this, but I'm learning this and this could conceivably be something else. So that they can start imagining possibilities and not just the course as it starts in August and it ends in May, so to speak. So we were talking about accountability, and graduation, I think, has been in our language for a long time. Something that has not been in our language, at least institutionally, has been effective rates. And as you can see here, the effective rate is defined by multiplying that graduation rate with what is called a success rate. The definition of the success rate has been set at the State Department, and for whatever reason, these are the 4 that have deemed important. Student earning a recognized certification, student earning a post-secondary certification, student earning a post-secondary degree, student enrolled in at least the first 2 years of after high school graduation. And these are just discrete measures that are used in order to say this is a success rate. So if we're sending 100 students out from our high school, how many of those 100 students have any of these 4 criteria? And that gets us to our success rate, and we multiply that with our graduation for our effective rate. This is what the Kansas State Department of Education posts as our data. Our effective rate is in that purple blue. We need to be at about 70%. That's that number our state has visited and identified, that for our state to continue to be successful and for our community members to be successful, at a minimum, 70% of the population needs to have one of the 4 components that you see in the previous slide. This is where we are right now, 44.3. Now, the trouble with the effective rate is that, if you remember, one of the criteria is that you haven't been in a post-secondary institution for at least 2 years. That means we are behind the ball. We have to wait 2 years before we can see if we're making an impact. And with regards to PAC, we're owning that rate, knowing that we're going to start our work now, and we won't see that change necessarily until 2 years from now. We have the effective rates shown here since 2011, but we didn't know that that was our focus. I'm not sure how we were pointing our vision towards those 4 criteria, but now we are. So looking into the future, PAC is going to be writing SMART goals with regards to how we're going to be moving the needle, what's our graduation rate, what will be our effective rate, as well as planning for that marketing strategy to be able to communicate to staff, parents, and students the whole global idea and the implementation. So we'll be planning the process and using this next school year for our execution and moving forward, being able to articulate exactly what pathways are, how we engage in them, and then also how our students can start thinking about life, not just to graduation or to prom, but beyond. Start thinking about what their opportunities are going to be. Any more questions? So I think of this kind of in terms of like a parent. I have a 19-year-old, well, soon to be 19-year-old, and for a long time, you know, the goal is, well, get him to graduation, get him to graduation. But see, what I'm noticing now is that, yes, I got them to graduation. I gave them the rules, the norms for our family, the expectations that he had to live by, in hopes that once he was out of the house, he would make those decisions that were good for him, good for his community, and make me proud. And that's kind of how I see this. We're helping our students to that graduation and giving them the skills so that when they are out there, they can make us proud and themselves proud as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, where are we at? C. Graduation, early graduation requests. I think you're back.
Oh, okay. You want more of me. So what you see in front of you is a request from, I think it's about 12 students. 12 students, they are petitioning to be able to graduate early. That is in December. And you should have in your packets the request from their parents and statements from the guidance counselors supporting their requests. So I think the next time we meet, you will be acting on that.
Yes, correct.
Okay. And then is the calendar next?
No.
No,
so
you get a break.
I just want to say on these graduation letters, which I'll say it again next month, I'm usually the one that sits up here and thinks there's no reason we should be letting these kids graduate early. But I was really impressed with some of these, if not most of them, as I read through them. They really do have a plan, and we should let them graduate early, whereas usual I'm like, they just want out 6 months early. But anyway, so whoever helped them or aiding them to get these letters better and come up with plans, I appreciate it.
Well, some with the career pathways that we've got set up here, we may see more of that.
Yeah.
Especially if we're getting a associate's degree before they even graduate.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is correct.
So, back to next month. Okay, back to Mr. Garvin.
Okay, those attached in board docs, the elementary student handbook for 2018-19. And as you glance through that, there's very, very minimal changes. Did you have any questions about it? This is the general handbook, and where it will be published, it used to be in the front of each student's planner. But we're going more digital now, so this will be placed in each school's Schoology page as well as on their home page of the website. And we'll save costs on our handbooks now. They'll be able to just go with generic handbooks instead of, or their planners instead of with this in it. So that's where it will be.
I just had a question.
You
I was
bet.
just curious. Under the, on page 4, under the dress code, I saw a highlighted area.
Yes.
So I'm assuming that's an addition for bandanas and do-rags?
It
Is
is.
there an issue with that?
Just a few. I mean, kids are great, right? And they'll say, well, it doesn't specifically say that. It just says hats. or it just says sunglasses. And so they just want to add those because it's been kind of a popular thing again here recently. And they wanted to add that in just to make sure it's in there. Because we tell kids, you know, to know the policies or the rules, and by gosh, that they bring it back, it's say.
I'm just not gonna wait for do-rag day during Spirit Week. We haven't had that. Start
Well,
do-rag day.
right, and that will be
Bring
one
a
they'll,
buck, you can wear a do-rag.
Probably, yeah.
they'll want to do it, I'm sure. So that's
Thank
why
you.
that was.
I was just
added.
curious about that, thank you.
Yeah. The principals are in the know, right? And they're the ones who helped me go through and revise. So. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I'll bring it back next month for action.
Special Services Report.
Hi there. Seaman schools are celebrating autism awareness currently with activities throughout the month within their schools. They're also celebrating our para-educators this month, as it was Para-Educator Day a couple days ago. As you're aware, our para-educators are invaluable for the students in our district, and specifically our students with special needs. They support our students' success in the general education classroom by supporting behavior plans, providing accommodations and modifications, and as well as reteaching our students. So we truly support them. They're invaluable to our district. They're flexible all the time, professional supporters of academic, social, emotional, and behavioral support. We appreciate them. And I hope you've had a chance to kind of look and see how the schools celebrated them in their own little unique ways. Everybody has a different way of celebrating them. It was kind of fun to see. April has also been a busy month for the early childhood world. There were a couple grants due this month, and in light of the legislature and everything that was going on, it was kind of timely. We appreciate the funding for our early childhood part of the world within that package. The first grant that we applied for was the KPP Collaborative Grant. We've not done that before. It was kind of a cool grant to apply for because we get to work with other school districts as well as other community daycares or child care centers. We are working with 437 as well as with 501 and a couple other centers. We're searching for a center right now within our school district to join that collaborative. We get, that focus is on evidence-based practices to improve the quality of early learning experiences for children in our Kansas preschool programs. Within that grant, we asked for 4 things. First of all, the KPP Collaborative, we asked for on-site social worker, which will be really exciting for us, as we would like them to provide individualized treatment, classroom intervention, parent support, as well as home visitation and trauma-informed care initiatives. We also would like a half-time instructional coach. This is something that came out as a survey that we gave our preschool teachers in a staffing need. That instructional coach would support our teachers in the classroom as well as our home daycares that we're partnering with in order to get quality instruction and quality care for our students that are going the other half of their day getting services at a daycare within our community. So we're kind of excited about that. Part of the KPP grant, as well as the state pre-K, which we always apply for, there's a couple more regulations that hasn't been in the past, which one is a classroom assessment for our teachers and in our classroom that we are to give once a semester. So we asked for this classroom assessment scoring system and the training that goes along with that, along with something called MyIGDs, which is another acronym, My Individual Growth and Development Indicator, but it's a screener for math and reading. So we asked for that within that grant. It's about a $160,000 grant that we're asking for, that we have hopes of getting. Our state preschool grant that we apply for every year, we're asking again this year for 60 slots for a 4-year-old at-risk program, and we will continue to ask for that. As well. One grant that I didn't put in there that's not through our state funding, but it's through United Way, is a community impact grant. And Mr. Henderson actually isn't here, but he's on the board for that. So we were excited to talk to him about that grant as well. And it's for some 3-year-old at-risk money that we've never had before. So that would be really exciting if we got an opportunity to be a part of that. Sensory room, weekly parenting classes, along with a food pantry, and we're asking for about $50,000 for that grant as well. Do you have any questions in the realm of early childhood or those grants that I discussed? Okay, I'll move on just for a second. We had our last Kansas MTSS training last week. We all get together, all the building leadership teams at Northern Hills, and we have that implementation. We're completing our implementation year one. This year, we all culminated with presentations from every school, which was really, really, really great. Our schools had presentations on their building data, their successes. They had questions for us that we could all give feedback to them, and then they set goals and an action plan for next year. So they did a great job, and the buildings have come a long way this last year, and I'm proud of them for what they've done because I know it was difficult. And I know that we will continue next year with that similar training, but it'll be individualized training. So our providers through Tazen will go to the schools and provide individual training, and we'll have 3 half-day trainings next year that we'll all get together and just hear from each other and see how our data looks, our data from the beginning of the year, middle of the year, and end of the year, to check in and see how things are going with that. Finally, I put in my report the special education December 1 count. I know it was a long time ago, but we just finalized it. That's how it all works. And you can see our numbers before you for what our special education population looks like throughout the district. We definitely see growth every year. We seem to have about 50 or so new students in special education, or more students, additional students in special education over the years, each year. We are monitoring where that growth is to see if there's staffing needs in different schools, and we see that, and we're keeping a close eye on that for staffing needs for next year. Do you have any questions over any of that? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You ready?
Drum roll. Maybe.
You doing technology report?
I'm glad to see between picture 1 and picture 2, you just picked up the pine cone.
I was gonna say, of course they took that.
You have to take a picture of that? I mean, seriously?
It's kind of a,
Sidewalk when we did that. So.
it was a slow month. It's the best I had. I'm not sure, this is public, right?
Yes, you're worldly right now.
Let's just, I'll move you through.
Okay, well, the gist of it, it's a little bit before and after. As you'll see by the sidewalk, it's sunken down in there, as well as all the seeds from the trees. Quite a tripping hazard. So remove the trees and report the sidewalk, considering these children are going to be 3, 4, 5 years old. This will help them out quite a bit. Keep going, Terry. Just keep going. Just showing you random photos of the completion and progress made. Here on the floor, they did an epoxy coating, moisture barrier. It's kind of a before and after. If you go to the next photo there, there's the carpet in the hallway. Keep going. There's another epoxy hallway, before and after. Just some photos showing you the gym with the sound dampening products on there, and it's kind of looks nice, as you guys will see eventually in person. Keep on rolling through, Terry. The high school, here's some railing. I don't know if you guys remember, you ever went in there, you could have probably lost, I don't know, your football through there. We've now got it reduced to 4 inches or less to, yeah.
Nobody can get their head stuck in there now.
And this is the picture of the softball field outfield. Just in case anybody gets any phone calls, late fall of last year, we had that field leveled and seeded. As you guys are well aware, the weather's not being very friendly to us. I turned the water on roughly in March, when you probably shouldn't, but I was trying to get this to come back. But with the weather being as cold as it is, it's still dormant. We're working to get it better. Here is a photo of the foundational work being done at the softball batting cage. It's coming along nicely. We redid the backstop, also the infield, et cetera. Took out the old chain link fence, back netting, and put the nylon in. Helps with visibility. Here are some machines they use for synthetic turf. They take like a lawnmower and they adapt it into this vacuum cleaner. I thought it was interesting. That's why I put it on there. I've never seen anything like this. And then there's the turf baseball field that just was swept recently. Any questions for me?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. You got these numbers in your handout. If you keep track, you can see that we were up considerably last month. We created 219 web tickets, and we closed out 222. Okay? But one thing I wanted to show you was some statistics from our meetings being viewed. And they were in your handout. September meeting, the very first one was up. October, down a little bit. November and December, I think people had other things to do. And then the March meeting was up. And I think that was due to some curiosity of what was going to be said. But you can see there was a total of 845 viewing minutes. Now, that doesn't tell me that it was done live. It just tells me it was viewed because we leave it posted. Beginning last month, I've gone in and they implemented a new feature that allows me to tag when the Pledge of Allegiance is, when maintenance report is, so someone can just go click on that agenda item and go to that point in the video. So I think that once that catches on, they'll go back and do that a little more. But that's all I have for you. We're gearing up for summer. It's going to be a busy time. We're collecting computers again and bagging them up, getting them all ready. We are seeing more and more screens damaged, which is interesting because those of you that attended any of the meetings I had, I told them not to put headphones in the computer and shut. That's exactly what they did. And then we have probably 2 pets a month chew AC cords. It's amazing to me that that happens, but it's sustaining itself very well. And I will tell you, I think buying a good product has helped. I think that we do nothing to repair the product because of a defect from Apple, typically. Typically, we break it. So I think that was a good decision. Questions for me? All right.
Thank you.
Evening. At the last month's board meeting, there was a discussion about the classified employee hiring procedures and that. You've got a copy of the board policy that deals with that. So if you had any questions or anything regarding that.
Any questions? Very good. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Horton?
Apologies, first of all, that we made some changes to the proposed capital outlay plan that you received last month. You'll remember we were in the process of getting bids for the Logan roof repair, and we had estimated those quite conservatively on the high side. When those bids came in, I really felt compelled to go back in and make that Core 5 a more accurate reflection of those numbers, and also because it helped me considerably to do that. So the net effect was that for a year ago, you approved the plan for this fiscal year that included $500,000 for Logan roof. The bid actually came in under that number. Last month, I had asked you to approve an additional $500,000 for Logan Roof for this coming year, which will not be necessary any longer. So after consulting Jason, who consulted Rick and Dan, who work on our roofs and our HVAC systems, they prioritized what that next major project ought to be in place of the other half of the Logan roof, and the decision was to go with the Elmont roof. So we have slid the Elmont roof into the 18-19 slot where the back half of Logan was going to be, and then we brought another project in that 5-year. Now remember, if you approve this tonight, all you're approving is projects for 18-19. The remaining 4 years in that plan are merely there to get items on your radar so you can kind of look ahead and probably as much for us to look ahead and kind of have a reasonable idea of where we're heading. And then looking at that bottom line or our ending cash amount, which I try to keep above $2 million is kind of my line in the sand. I don't want that to go below $2 million. And you'll notice that those ending balances are very healthy and a little healthier than the proposed Core 5 that I gave you last month. So with those changes in mind, are there any other questions I can answer for you in the Core 5? If there are none, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Got a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Carl, second by Keith, I think.
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Now we get to the calendar.
Thank you.
Last month, you were introduced to a calendar, and Mr. Patton, I think you identified a problem with the calendar. February 13th had an issue with the color coding and what it represented, so we changed that. And then also, I identified a couple of other mistakes that we had in there. Namely, December 20th also needed a color coding matching up it to the center, and that was changed. And we also found an extra teacher work day. And in order to comply with the master agreement and the number of days teachers are working, we had to identify a place where we would take a day off. And so we took off May 21st. And so the teacher last contract day is May 20th in order to be within the 184 days. Having done that, we had to go to third quarter and fourth quarter of the teacher days to represent the actual days that are in those. And so I believe third quarter lost a day and fourth quarter gained a day. And we just clarified in the legend that the end of the bracket represents the last day of school for student and staff. So those were the changes that were made. And I don't know if you would be ready to adopt this calendar.
Any questions? If not, is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Sherry,
Second.
second by Keith. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Mentioned when I was up before that we had in fact received bids for the Logan Roof project. We broke the bid down into two base bids. The original plan, I guess still the current plan, is to roof Logan in two phases like we've done the HVAC. We are, however, holding out some hope because of some of the items that Cine has the HVAC contract, and they've been able to work ahead at different times throughout this school year, so that when they are able to get back up there this summer, we're hopeful that they can move fairly quickly. And if that were to be the case, but there's a lot of ifs there, weather's got to cooperate, and they've actually got to be able to do what we're hopeful they're able to do. We're holding out hope possibly we can do the entire roof this summer. But it was bid out in phases, so there's two base bids here, one for this summer and one for next summer. And then we also had, we asked for some alternate bids to replace gutters and downspouts while we were doing the work, and a wind vented roof system was another thing that had been suggested. And then there's a mechanical enclosure up there that it doesn't look good, and so and we also want to make it more efficient in what it does. So So that was the other alternate. So the low bid came from Meridian, which is a company in our district. You can see it was significantly lower than the other two bids we received. So that would be the two base bids, which redoes the entire roof at Logan. Because it came in well under what we had budgeted, we are going to go ahead and replace guttering and downspouts while we're up there. And then we also would like to accept the alternate to cover the mechanical building, and actually that's a deduct based on how we're going to redo it. So unless you have questions, I would recommend we approve the bid for Meridian for $401,352.
Have we worked with Meridian in the past?
Yes, they just did, they've done Mathis, they also did, was it Hills or the bus shop after the hailstorm? Hills, yes.
And we've been satisfied with the quality of work. That just seems significantly lower than the other bids.
Yeah, they've done a good job.
Actually, and I don't want to speak badly here, but the low bid and the middle bid were fairly close. It was that third bid, and that wasn't even a complete bid. They left out one section of roof there, so that was kind of the outlier. We felt like we weren't sure where that was. I would never do that. Flashback to what, what year was that? Yeah.
I'll move we accept the bid from Meridian.
Second. Got a motion and a second. Any questions?
Are there how many days to complete the contract?
Yeah, I don't.
I don't know, days wise.
We gave them, here's the day you can start, and here's the day you got to be off the roof, and it's like 2 days.
They do have a
It's-
definite ending.
Yes, yes, they have to be off the roof by. Now, the only thing we may get into, Keith, is if it looks like we can get the whole thing done, and we may have to go into the school year by a little bit, if I can be assured that it won't disrupt teaching and learning, we may consider that, but I'd have to be assured that it's not going to disrupt teaching and learning, because we can always wait until the following summer to get the second part done. So it's just kind of a best case scenario, we get it done this summer. If not, we just wait and we do the rest of it next summer. Okay?
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we move on to executive session. I will make a motion to go into executive session to discuss negotiation items pursuant to the exception for employer-employee negotiations under the Kansas Open Meetings Act, and the open meeting will resume in the boardroom at 7:20. Is there a second?
Second. Oh, Christie can have that.
Second by Christie. All in favor say aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
I assume you want.
Yes, please.
Really? No big. I think we should Hey, Sherry wants to operate the meeting.
Okay, thanks for waiting us out. We are now adjourned.